And as we bask in the glow of the World Cup here, Doug, has soccer finally arrived in America as a major sport?
You know, it feels like we have this conversation every 4 years, right? But I would venture to say that we have reached the tipping point. I mean, I think the ratings have been well documented. I mean, some of the games rated as well as a World Series or NBA Finals game. But beyond that, it's really become part of the social sports conversation, right? And you couldn't go anywhere without hearing someone talking about the World Cup. So I do think it's arrived, and I think the implications for the sports industry and sports media in particular are going to be significant.
There's like an energy and a nationalism, too, to all of this over the course of an entire month, too, right, Mike?
Yeah, and I think not just because the U.S. team put up a good showing, but I get a feeling that it's almost like the perfect storm for soccer this time around. You have the apps like Watch ESPN, so people really picked up on it on social media. You know, they were into the players, what the players do, where they live, who their girlfriends were. I mean, it was really everywhere. And I'm just wondering, I mean, if you're looking at this and you're Fox, right, and you know for the next 2 World Cups you have the rights, you got to be pretty happy right now.
Oh, I think they're thrilled. I think Fox was thrilled when they did the deal, and I think they had a lot of smart reasons why they did it, but they've got to be more excited than ever now that the event has really been elevated.
All right, so you mentioned kind of a tipping point. Short term right now, who's going to benefit from everything that's happened with the World Cup?
I think you might find that interesting. I think in the short term, it's going to be some of the international leagues that may benefit the most. I think the buzz that's been created around top quality soccer throughout the world is going to inure to the benefit of folks like the Premier League. They recently started a new deal with NBC. That's been real successful in a lot of ways, and I think the ratings there are going to continue to grow, and that was a short-term deal. So within the next year, they'll be negotiating again, and I think you're going to see those rights fees take another significant increase.
You know, what about the fact how NBC has treated the English Premier League? I mean, they've really treated it like the trophy asset soccer is viewed as overseas. Has that helped it here in the U.S.?
I think there's no question. NBC has treated it as a premier property. They've promoted it like one. They've had terrific studio programming around it, and they've made every game available so anyone could follow any team or player they were interested in. And I think that has had an incredibly quick impact on the popularity of the Premier League. People know the brands. They know the players' names. You see the kids walking around in the kits. So in a very short period of time, it's been elevated, and that becomes part of this rising tide lifting soccer.
Has it helped NBC in terms of advertisers, people coming on board?
I think they're very, very pleased. Yeah, the ratings have not been massive, but they've been very, very solid. I know they grew throughout the season, and they've been also very pleased with the demographic of the soccer viewer. It's a young, affluent male, which are the hardest kinds of viewers to find. So I know NBC has been real pleased with that, and it's also helped them create a new day part. Because the matches are on late morning or early afternoon on the weekend, that hasn't been premium programming traditionally. It may have been infomercials, etc. But by putting the Premier League in those slots, they've really created a new day part, which has worked out real well for them.
All right, now you mentioned the short-term beneficiaries. How about long-term?
Long term, I think Major League Soccer is going to benefit. You know, I think that's going to take a little more time, but I think just the fact that you have more people engaged with soccer, more people appreciating the strategy, more people that like, play, follow the sport, over time, that's going to inure to the benefit of MLS. I think they have great leadership over there. They've got a great ownership group. They're doing a lot of real smart things. People forget it's still a very young league. So I think over time, this kind of thing, again, this rising tide will lift MLS. It'll just take a little bit longer than it may with like the Premier League I mentioned.
I'm just wondering, guys, if we've sort of seen a myth be, proven to be false here with this, because one of the things people have said about soccer catching on, why it wouldn't, would be because, there's limited advertising, right? Because they don't stop the play. Yet if you look at the ratings for the World Cup and even the demographics, I realize the ratings haven't been spectacular for MLS or for the EPL on NBC, but the demographics are great. And the rights fees are going up, which tells me advertisers are paying something, right? Because they wouldn't continue to pay such big increases in right fees if they weren't getting some money for it. So does this, tell us that you can make money advertising, enough advertising money on soccer, even though you don't have to have those constant commercials?
Yeah, I think the networks that have placed bets on soccer, whether it's MLS, World Cup, Premier League, other international leagues, are very, very pleased with those bets right now. And I think you're going to continue to see those rights fees go up. I think part of it is what you're talking about, advertising and the appealing demographic. And part of it is also the leverage that this kind of programming gives the networks vis-a-vis their negotiations with cable and satellite operators. Sports is the only programming people continue to watch live. It's the programming about which people are the most passionate. So the networks continue to go after top premium sports properties, and more than ever, soccer is viewed as that kind of property.